Hi Aries, I hope that you're all doing well. We're here with a timeless reading. Welcome. All right, first card that we have out is the Devil. The Devil can mean a lot of different things, so we're gonna get to context about this first. What's going on here? All right, I'm looking at Page of Cups. Devil and Page of Cups can be a feeling, like that type of experience that you're feeling very attached to. This can even be something that you want to create because of the connection that you can have. This can also be something that you want to, or wanted to, because it looks like you're not in this space anymore. Something that you could have potentially been elongating, even if it wasn't. So when we have the Devil attached to the Page of Cups, it can be an experience that we have, whether we like it or not, because sometimes we don't like the experience, but for some reason we feel like we need to keep repeating something or recreating that experience that we have, whether this is something like mentally that you're recreating or physically that you're recreating, experiencing somehow. The Devil and Page of Cups can also be something where it's like this little tiny feeling that is meant to continue changing and evolving in the way that it will, but the Devil can make something, well, attempt to make something stationary. And so instead of allowing something to continue in the way that it's meant to unfold, we can sort of try to freeze it with the Devil. So there could have been something going on where there was something that it may have felt good or it may have felt like relieving to you. You know, like with the Page of Cups, it's going to be some type of feeling that can feel like it's fixing or helping something else. So it can be like a band-aid of some sort. Like, I want to try to recreate this feeling. I really like this feeling. I don't want it to go away. And you know, feelings are fleeting as well. But it can be something where with the Devil, it's like the attempt to not allow it to be fleeting, but it actually becomes some type of blockage. However, I'm seeing you be in a spot with the Six of Swords where it feels like there's the realization like, oh, that's what I was doing. The Devil too can be like using something in a way that it's not supposed to be used, or in a way that's not of your highest benefit. This can also be something that was influencing choices that you were making, or like scenarios that you were setting up, essentially. I'm seeing Capricorn. I'm also seeing the Emperor here, which is Aries. Okay. There's definitely understanding here, which feels very important to allowing you to be released from this cycle. This is something that it could have initially felt good, but then you feel like it's sort of taking something from you, or you're sacrificing something. Okay. Six of Swords is going to be a moment of understanding of, I'm in a space where I've actually understood this, where I've learned about what this process was for me. And in this realization, it allows me to be released from it, because it's not something that I'm like bypassing the understanding of. I've gotten to a point where I've actually reflected on this, maybe where it's coming from. There's been a dissection and a processing, like a digestion of that information. Now, having Five of Cups can be realizing why you had been doing this in the first place. Like, I was upset about this, and so I was doing that. Or this didn't feel good, and so I was doing that because that did feel good. You know, it can be sort of avoiding something here. Emotionally speaking, it seems more than anything. Maybe something that you were like, I don't feel like I'm ready for this, so if I just keep this thing frozen in time and I keep recreating it or re-experiencing it, I can sort of avoid this feeling of having to lose this thing that is making me feel good. But the way that the devil works is that, like, if you just have the Page of Cups alone, this can be like a fleeting moment that feels good, or like a fleeting sensation or feeling. But the devil is like keeping it in an inorganic space. It's like wanting to preserve this thing, but a cup is not meant to be preserved in that way. Nothing is. And so you could have felt like you were sort of bending the rules here with whatever this is. But it was to stave off sort of accepting that this feeling wasn't going to stay, or this sentiment wasn't going to stay, or this experience wasn't going to stay. I do get this vibe again of like trying to recreate this, whatever it was, because of the attachment to this feeling or this sensation or this experience that you were having. Having Five of Cups feels like, as I'm moving through this process, Five of Cups is maybe what I had been trying to put off this whole time. But now I'm sitting in a position where I'm recognizing that I can't keep doing this. So it can be this realization too of like the actual fleeting nature of something. But what you were doing before was staving that off. So you get to this point where you're like, wow, now I'm sitting here and I'm feeling that thing that this whole time I was trying to avoid by doing this over here. Having Knight of Wands and having the Emperor feels like you being very focused on something. Because I even feel like there's a part of you that wants to have a mission, that wants to have a purpose, that wants to have something that feels like it's motivating or inspiring to you. And I feel like that part of you is going to go connect with this other part of you that may be in mourning or grieving, and is going to sort of pick you up and move you forward. So this means that if there's something around you that is inspiring to you, or something that can pull your attention to it, something that you can focus on, it feels like there's something productive that you can do with this then, that's going to have you feel like this is going to be a good use of my energy, rather than trying to keep this other thing frozen in time. I'm going to keep like moving, and this is something that I can actually be working on now. But there can be a sense of conflict that's felt about this process. If you're having a hard time letting go of something, having the Devil here shows that it's because of like the attachment that's created to that thing. And attachment is going to be happening because we believe that we need this thing, whatever this external thing is. So then like grieving the loss of that thing, where it was like, that was doing that for me, and I don't believe that I can do that for myself, or like I don't believe that I'm whole or complete without this thing. Then like losing perceived object or whatever sentiment the Devil was for you can be like, now what am I gonna do? Because it can feel like a hopeless situation then that you find yourself in, but it feels like that's just like what the attachment is speaking to you. It's not necessarily how you're going to feel as you continue to disconnect from this, which is going to happen as you in-source this for yourself, rather than outsourcing whatever it was that you were outsourcing to the Devil, whatever that was for you. Rethinking something deeply about yourself here. I think this is too about a sense of inner strength as well. Having the Sun and having the Hanged Man can be like this self-image that I have of myself. There's something about that I'm retiring. There's something about that I'm shedding. Like, I may have thought I was supposed to do this or be like that. Like anything having to do with like your self-perception, like what you feel like you're meant to be doing here, your path, your mission. Having Hanged Man next to it can show that there was one way that you were interpreting that before. However, there's like a growing or an evolving interpretation of this, and it may be a bit different than how you were seeing things before. So being in that process of things here. You can understand something but still feel kind of uncomfortable moving forward. Something about attachment connected with, I'm seeing Queen of Cups here. The way that Nine of Swords is looking at Queen of Cups, there can be something that you feel really fixated on that's connected with like feminine energy. It can be nurturing energy. It can be like a motherly energy, archetypally speaking. It can be like something that you're missing, something that you feel like you're lacking, and that can be why you were trying to attach to something, well, why you were attaching to something before, but it's like, it's not the real deal. That's the thing with the devil. The devil is like, I promise this is what you're looking for, and it may initially kind of feel like that, but once you're doing it long enough, you're like, oh, this isn't like actually the real thing, and it just leaves you wanting more and more and more and more, and you end up chasing your tail. Like, that's the deal when the devil is here. So it's something where like you think that it's going to be the solution, it's not actually the solution, and then you're left to deal with like losing that hope all over again, you know, because of this. What I'm seeing this be connected with is, it looks like it's connected with Queen of Cups. So you can feel like there's a type of like emotional, because we have cups here, there's a type of emotional nurturing that you feel like you need, and there can be a fixation on that, but there can also be concerns about that too. Like maybe you feel like you're not getting something that you want or something that you need, and that's why you were looking to that in the first place. Because you can even feel like left out of something, and like you didn't fall under the umbrella of some type of care that you feel like you need. And or you can feel disconnected from that part of yourself. Like I'm supposed to be able to nurture and to give love in a certain way, but there's a part of me that feels disconnected from that because it wasn't like modeled properly for me, you know. It can be like that type of thing, or it can be like every time I get close to somebody, I just think about the loss that I experienced when I was younger, and so that also deters me from stepping into that space. But this thing over here, it made me feel better, even if it was temporarily. So you can sort of see the way that this is the train of thought here that's being exposed, but it can be something that's difficult to look at. It feels honestly like both an attraction and also a fear to this very feminine nurturing energy that would be your feminine water energy. Feminine meaning receptive, like welcoming, loving, that type of thing. Okay. I'm seeing there be something of a plan that's unfolding, but there can also be some both mixed feelings and also trying to sort something out about taking the next steps forward. You can feel like there are a lot of different ways that you could go, a lot of different ways that you could move, and be like, well, what am I supposed to do here? Because you can feel disconnected from that part of yourself. With this energy connected with the Queen of Cups, you can be like, I'm having a hard time tuning into that part of myself and hearing what it's telling me. This can also be about you connecting with your inner child as well. Yeah, I do sense that this is really connected with like you doing that nurturing for yourself, even though there may have been someone that you expected to give that to you, and you could feel like, how do I do that for myself when I wasn't shown how to do that, or when I wasn't given that? That's really what this is feeling like. See this? And it can make you, once you come to this like understanding and you start doing this for yourself, it feels like it's going to rearrange like an aspect of your self-image and also how you're going about doing certain things. Because if you feel like there was something that you lacked, like many of us, when we go through an experience that we haven't like fully digested or something that we still feel stuck on, we can then go about like making it our mission or making it an aspect of our identity where we feel like that's what we're supposed to do. And in a way we are, until it's something that we figure out if we choose to do that. But once you integrate something, it doesn't really bring up those things for you anymore, and then you can be like, oh, well, what do I do now, or where am I going now, because my whole life isn't about this thing anymore, because I have like found that connection within myself. And so I don't need to like search the ends of the earth for this thing anymore, because I already have it, you know. And so you don't go looking for something you don't need anymore. So it can be something like that that's happening. You may not feel like you're at that point yet though, but you see how this card over here, it's like I'm seeing you come out on the other side of something. Having Neptune here can be like, I thought this was the situation, but then coming out on the other side of Neptune can be like, oh, but I'm seeing something else actually was going on. So you can think that you get put into a situation and they're like, you're told one mission to do, but as you're moving through it, you realize that it was about something else entirely. Now, see how this card, it's like sitting up and it's looking at that. This feels like a forlorn type of feeling here, where it's like I'm dreaming about that, or I've been thinking about that, or like all my thoughts are focused on that. And it can be really this call for you to emotionally nurture yourself, but it can be something where you were like, but I wanted that person to do it, or I wanted that person to do it, or like in my childhood this should have happened. It's like all of these things that it's like actually a call for you to be like both of these energies. And you can be in a space where you're like, I have a lot of feelings about this too. I have a lot of feelings that are brought up when I'm thinking about this. And you could even feel like there's something emotionally that's being worked out right now. I'm seeing that you are going to be completing a major cycle here with Saturn on the bottom of the deck. This can be in about a year's time that this ends up completing fully. It does feel like there's a recognition of something that may not be functional anymore. And you could be at a point where you're like, okay, how am I going to move through this? Or like, what am I going to do next now that I've recognized this? Because you can look at something and be like, this is an unhealthy pattern. Or you can even look at this and be like, this is a pattern that I keep repeating and finding myself in a situation, but it's not going to be satisfied this way, what I'm looking for. So that's where the realization comes of like, I'm not going to be fooled anymore by that. Because the devil will really put on a show and like seduce you into believing something. But once you get to a point where you've detached enough to be able to objectively look at it, you realize that it's not going to be the answer. So it feels like in this moment there's a realization that like this isn't going to be the answer, like this attachment to this thing. And the way that you're liberated from it is through understanding it. So it's actually like getting closer to it and really looking in and checking it out and feeling it out and analyzing it and processing it. Having Five of Cups and having Knight of Wands can be like, I've been putting all of my energy into this. Now this didn't turn out the way that I thought it was going to do. Now what am I supposed to be doing? So there can be a part of you that's sort of like switching lanes a little bit here. And you can be like, before I felt like this is what I was supposed to be doing. Now there's this part of me that's feeling a bit lost, like what happens now really? So I'm seeing you're starting to come out on the other side of something. And it feels like there can be a lot of like raw emotions now that are being experienced because I'm not bypassing with that thing that was being bypassed with. This can be a very subconscious energy. Like I didn't realize that I was slapping a band-aid on it with this thing, but now that I'm understanding it, I'm seeing that it was. And so by not doing that anymore, I'm sort of faced with all of the raw emotions that I'm experiencing going through this process. And I feel like I have a lot to process now. And I'm trying to figure out what to do next. So I'm seeing that sort of be the point of things. This feels like you're moving much closer to a tighter relationship with yourself. in a way that you may have not really been plugged in before. Like the connection is there, but you could have not been feeling that with yourself. I do feel, again, you could have thought something was going to be the answer. There's a recognition that something was not the answer. And then having the Sun and the Queen of Cups is a part of you that sort of in this recognition, of course you disconnect, because it's like the party's over, like the lights go on, and so you can't, there's no like fooling yourself into thinking this anymore. And so there's this like epiphany essentially that happens, or like the breaking through of like, as much as I would like to go back to this thing, I can't anymore, because I know now at this point that it's not really going to give me what I'm looking for. And what would be the point? Because that was the whole point. I was doing this dance anyway. And so now there's needing to move through this process intuitively, but you could also feel too, like at certain times when I trust my instinct, why do I feel like it leads me in a direction where I get caught up in a situation like this? Because maybe you felt too, like before, I was trusting my instinct and I was listening to what was going on and it led me here. So what am I supposed to do now about this? So I think there's also an undressing too of like, you can have different instincts, and it's about learning the difference between like these impulses that you're experiencing versus actual insights from your intuition. Because I'm seeing when you get set on a path, I'm seeing you like go exactly where you're trying to go, like really focus on that thing, but it's about picking and choosing what missions you're sending yourself on. And right now you could be in that process of like finding the compass, like the true compass that's really gonna take you where you're trying to go. Like the true compass that's going to sort of like satisfy or allow you to land where it is that you're looking to land, or accomplish what it is that you're looking to accomplish, or satisfy what you're looking to satisfy. So it does feel like something's happening regarding your discernment, connected with feelings and also connected with intuition, and telling the difference between the two of those, especially when one of them is impulsive from maybe a more wounded place, or like a subconscious place or unconscious place, versus actual insight from your higher self, which may sometimes be the more difficult thing, but is actually going to be the answer. It's going to be the solution. So it's about like creating something by spending this time tuning in, which like very deep self-honesty is going to be a part of this, because having Neptune here can be any type of self-deception, anything where you're not fully willing to look at circumstances or look at yourself, and you get led down a wrong path because of being like, I don't want to admit this. But then you find yourself in these situations. So it's about like this very, very like absolute self-honesty and truthful self-reflection, honest self-reflection that you do. And it's going to help you cut through a lot of the, well, which one is which? And it's really going to be the answer. And I'm seeing things are going to start making a lot more sense. It's going to be a lot easier to move through this, because I'm seeing you're like, I have a lot of anxiety, or like I'm concerned now figuring out what to do next or how to move forward, because what if I just land myself in a situation like this again? But as you move through this, and as you do this honest self-reflection, which is like the only way to work with Neptune, is you have to be absolutely honest with yourself. Otherwise, it's going to be like buying into something that's deceptive, and then you're going to fall in the same place again. So it doesn't mean that you don't have the skills to be able to discern. It's just about a willingness to be totally, completely, and absolutely honest with yourself, and to actually look at the situations that you're moving through and like what's motivating what you're doing. You know, like, why are these feelings coming up? What's motivating these feelings? Where do you think they're coming from? What's motivating these impulses? Where do you think they're coming from? And when you really ask yourself and spend time reflecting, because Neptune can also be like if you think about that too hard, then you're not going to do it. So don't think about it too hard. Let's just do it. But then it takes you somewhere you don't want to be going. So if you actually spend the time being like, let me take 5 extra minutes to think about this and what's motivating it, and if it's really going to in a more like long-term way give me the answer that I'm looking for, then you're gonna have your yes. But if you're like, there's part of me that feels like I'm getting a bit of a red light here, but I'm just gonna push it down and keep going anyway, then you find yourself in these situations. So again, like just coming back to this place of really being honest with yourself as you're making the choices that you're making and what's motivating what you're doing. And you're gonna be able to tell the difference. That's basically what's being learned. Seeing the world on the bottom of the deck does feel like in a year's time, this is going to be a process that you can feel you've very much mastered and not at all an issue for you anymore. But you can feel like this is something that's going to take some time. All right, my friends, we are going to leave the reading here. I would like to thank everyone for connecting. Thank you for tuning in. I'm sending everybody love, and I hope to catch you guys next time.